Hello and welcome to another End User Talk podcast. I'm your hostess, Jamila, your Lady in Tech. Hello and welcome to the End User Talk podcast. I'm your hostess, Jamila, your Lady in Tech. Today, I have an amazing guest, someone I've been trying to get on the podcast for some time, and our worlds have collided, and now we are here. So, Marvelous or Marvelous
Hello.
Play, how are you doing?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm doing good. First off, I want to thank you so much for finally being able to find time in your personal busy schedule with everything that you do to talk with me today. Thank you. How are you doing?
I'm good. And honestly, thank you for having me. It's been a long time coming. I realize this, but I'm good. I just wanted to go ahead and set aside the time today to go ahead and, sit down and have a nice natural conversation. So here we are. But thank you for having me.
Anytime. So in case our listeners do not know who you are, do you mind giving us a brief introduction?
Sure. Well, for those of you out there who are listening, my name is Marvelous Play. Most people just call me Marv for short because it's, a lot less of a mouthful. But I am a variety content creator. So what that means is I stream to platforms like Twitch and YouTube. I also produce and edit video clips that I upload to Instagram, Twitter, TikTok, YouTube, as well as I produce and edit a podcast of my own alongside Jamila. So this was definitely something I was looking forward to. So if you've never heard of me, hi, hello, and I hope you enjoyed today's episode. And once again, just thank you for having me. This is going to be a pleasure.
Agreed. And so you are both on Twitch and on you're on Twitter as well, but you're also on YouTube. What exactly, if someone were to tune in to your channel on either YouTube or Twitch, what would they find?
Great question. If I could summarize the experience of the channel, no matter which platform you choose to view it on, you would probably get a very calming, laid-back atmosphere. I think the biggest thing that attracts a lot of people to myself and to the channel and the community as a whole is the fact that we're not too overly hype or too overly animated. Nothing against content creators, streamers that are very hype, animated, and exciting 24/7. Because I tune in and I love those types of videos, those types of streams, things of that nature as well, right? But for me, just speaking for me, I'm a very calming individual. So the tone of my voice, the nature of the conversations that we have in chat are a little bit more on the calm side because we try to really emphasize talking about real issues or real things going on in the content creation universe and space. So I don't have time to hype up the truth when I'm trying to deliver it because I want people to zero in on the message of what we're talking about and not so much the delivery, I guess. Does that make sense?
It does, and I understand exactly what you're stating, especially in a world that is so. We're in a time where things are so. I'm trying to find the word here. I'm going to use the word elevated for lack of a better word, but so in your face and so sometimes offensive and personal and sensational even. Sometimes you just need to be able to be somewhere and tune in and not be so worked up.
True.
It takes a calm, soothing voice as you have displayed today. And sometimes, with all the noise that's going around, you want to hear someone who's going to lay out discussions, topics, or conversations in a way that isn't so meant to more not necessarily give you the truth, but to get a reaction out of you. the
Hmm.
shock value. So yeah, I definitely understand. And I think it's great that you offer that and that you are able to provide an environment, a moment where sometimes you just need to disconnect. So I appreciate that. I've been in your stream and I've watched the games you play. I watch how you narrate and you host and you welcome everyone that comes in and you take time to acknowledge questions or inquiries and even discussions sometimes. So yeah, I can attest to that. You do make your stream very welcoming and relaxed, if nothing else.
I do my best. For me, it's the personal belief that I go into a lot of streams with bigger viewership and even some streams with like the same amount of viewership as me. And when you go in there, sometimes it feels like you're just another viewer, you're just another number to the streamer or content creator, which I get for some people. Depending on the type of game they're playing, depending on the activity, they may not have the ability to stop and answer every single question or address everybody in the room, especially if you have a chat that moves like a mile a minute. I understand. But for the individuals that do have the ability and do have I guess they do have the ability to do so is what I'm trying to say. I just don't understand why you would not want to. Because for me, I understand that content creation, just like music or anything else, is very fickle. You have about 5 to 15 seconds to capture a viewer's like attention. And within that 5 to 15 seconds, you got to give them something that'll make them possibly come back the second or third time. So for me, I want to go ahead and make sure I acknowledge the person as much as possible. If they drop a follow, if they type in chat, if they're asking me a question, because you never know if you'll ever see that person come back and chat again. And I think that's the one thing that separated me from a lot of my peers is generally when people come into the chat and they say hello and we start a real discussion, whether it's about their day or the game we're playing or things that we're going to be doing in the future, they tend to come back that second time, that third time, that fourth time. And for the most part, if you come back a third time, then I believe you're truly there to stay. And that's how we grow the community. Just getting and really connecting with people based on the things that you have in common or the things that are going on in the moment, because you don't know what kind of day that they're going through. They may just need a voice to talk to or somebody, who will listen. Not that I'm a therapist, not that I can solve all the world's problems, but sometimes just hearing a calm, friendly voice is enough to, keep you from jumping off the edge per se.
I do agree. And it's interesting you say that. Also with this, with the streaming, the concept, or when someone decides that, you know what, I want to take this live. I want to be on video. I want people to see my face. I want them to view my content, whatever it is. You have variety streamers and different people who do so many different things. That's one of the things, I guess, the strings that is attached to this is being able to have maintain viewership. May I ask, when you're streaming, is it important to you that you have the quality or the quantity in numbers?
For me, I would say the quality. I've had, and even just recently, we went through the whole Black History Month promotion with Twitch. While it was great and I greatly appreciated, we were able to get on front page. We were able to stream and be live in front of thousands of people. At one time, I think one of the streams we had like 3,000 people in the chat or 3,000 people watching. While quantity is great, it's always going to be quality. And I even say that in my little Twitch bio, trying to foster a community where quality over quantity, because I want the community to be a reflection of me, being that I value people, I value conversation, I value interaction. So if I'm not able to foster that, if I'm not able to give you a space to be yourself, to talk to other community members, then I feel like it starts with me. Oftentimes, the community is a representation of the streamer themselves. So when people say, hey, this community is toxic, this community doesn't respond well, you have a bunch of trolls. Well, look at the person who is leading the pack. every single community has the one alpha wolf per se that leads the pack, and the community basically forms around like minds. So you have to start with the streamer, and then it trickles down to the viewership that watches them. So my quality has to be people who are somewhat like me, that want to be calm, that want to be chill, that value discussion. At the same time, we try to be respectful about other people's opinions and views, though we may not always agree. And that's the number one key thing people must remember. We're not always going to agree, but it is perfectly fine to agree to disagree and move on. Because at the end of the day, everybody deserves to have the voice heard, as long as it's being done in a respectful and responsible manner. So that's all, I'm trying to bring to the table when I say a quality community that can actually get along and vibe with one another, no matter what their background is.
And I ask that question because that's one of the biggest things. Everybody wants to get the numbers. They want to have the likes. They want to get sponsorships, and they want to be partner. And in order for you to accomplish those goals or to be noticed for those recognitions, you have to have a specific number or quota in order to be considered or offer those things. So outside of being able to offer quality, how important is it to you to also have opportunities such as those partnerships? And
I think it's very important. In the beginning with streaming, when I wanted to get started with streaming, it was all about just having fun with friends. It was all about the games. It was all about, trying to get the affiliate status, the sub button, so you can start making a little bit of revenue off of things that you love to do. To a certain degree, a lot of that is still true. I still value playing games with friends, doing what I love to do. The revenue will come. It's not the end all be all. And I tell anybody who's listening right now, if you're trying to get into streaming to get rich off it, the best of luck to you, because very few content creators and streamers actually get rich off of doing this, even full time. However, where the real opportunities lie is with the sponsorships and endorsements. So I think if you're going to do this long term, then you definitely have to keep that in mind, being that the opportunities and sponsorships out there are plentiful, but you have to go looking for them, because some sponsors, some companies will not always come knocking down your door. Oftentimes, to be honest, you're going to have to start knocking down doors yourself. So when it comes to that, you have to start looking at the business side of content creation, the business side of streaming. What are my analytics? How many viewers do I average? What type of social engagement do I get on across my social media platforms like Twitter, like Instagram, TikTok, YouTube, things of that nature? You don't have to have the biggest and best numbers in the room. You just need to know your numbers. Oftentimes you can talk to a streamer and a content creator, and they cannot tell you what is their average, PPV, what's their average, engagement on Twitter, how many likes and retweets do they get per post, even though it's right there in your face and you could click on it to find out. So knowing your numbers is important, and it's definitely more important for me going forward, because I look at a field of communities and a field of content creators that I vibe with that are hungry. They want promotions, they want sponsorships, things of that nature. And all it takes is for one person to knock down the door to open the floodgates for everybody. So when I think about how I want to do it for myself, it's more so thinking about the people I can bring along with me. Okay, I got in the door. Good. Let me get established. Next person up, let's get them through the door. Okay, we're both good. Let's bring a third person. And before you know it, we have a room of 5, 10, maybe 12 people who are comfortably making content. I'm not saying rich, but just comfortable in the kind of the quality of content that they're making, and also being equally rewarded for putting in the time and the effort in doing so. So that's my overall biggest vision, is just getting the sponsorships and the endorsements from a business perspective to not only further fund what I want to do creatively, but also help those that I know and can validate and personally say they're good to go. Their content is great. Go check them out. They actually might be more amazing than me, but they are here. We are here. So, it's just about getting people to take notice.
Now, I have seen you do that. So give credit or try to get the referrals to other content creators out there, other streamers in whatever realm they are in. I've seen you do that and offer support. Now, I don't know if that is a part of your podcast, if that was the initiative or the goal is if I create a podcast, I also want to make certain that I'm also reaching back and giving exposure to my my peers who are out here doing the same thing. Now, with your podcast, you also are a web developer. What type of, not everyone knows what a web developer is, but how much of your web development is incorporated within your streaming?
I would say, honestly, I really haven't incorporated much of it as much as I've wanted to quite yet. It's actually funny that we bring this up because just the other day, I was speaking to a viewer. They were asking me about the same question about my web development background. For those of you who don't know, I attended a web-based academy. I don't have a formal computer science degree. I have a certificate from a web-based academy that's pretty well known. I won't say their name because, yeah. Y'all not getting free endorsement off my back, even though I appreciate you. But I basically received a certificate from them and I became well versed in several different languages, libraries, and several, different ways of, compiling code. So I haven't really done much with it in the streaming space yet. My plans were and have always been to eventually reach back and do live streams or do co-op streams with other developers or the people in the tech industry so that people who want to learn can learn. And by helping somebody else learn, it helps you sharpen your skills. You know how they say, steel sharpens steel, iron sharpens iron? Well, the same is true when it comes to learning. If you're learning something along somebody else, then you're both benefiting off one another because you have a constant flow of ideas, a constant flow of questions to be asked. And you may have a more efficient way of doing something than somebody else does, especially when it comes to coding and programming. The biggest thing for me, however, is I'm so nervous to hit that go live button to do a coding stream because I know and I've seen it from my own eyes. On Twitch especially, there are just some people that are very snobbish in the tech community when it comes to new people like coding or streaming live. And I don't want that for our community that we've already established. Sure, we can purge people. Sure, we can ban people. But at the end of the day, I don't feel like I need to have to do that because we're trying to not only create a safe environment to not only play games and conversate about content creation, but once we hit that go live button on coding, now we open the doors for it to be a safe space for learning. And in order to have that, once again, it's got to be about the quality of people around us. So I haven't really incorporated much yet, but once I do, the floodgates are basically opened and I look forward to the response that we get from the community, as long as it's the right type of community.
You know what? I actually took a spin on Twitch to look at all of the other categories, the different types of streaming categories. And I myself have been interested in learning coding. Web development, I tried. I'm not good with design. I don't have a vision with the colors and the organization. You have to me.
Same here.
Right. It's like with web design, you have to know what flows. You've got to get all of the colors and the just everything has to flow. It can't just be all jumbled up and messy and not look organized, if you will, and beautiful. Mm-hmm. So that's another thing. You have to do that. So I tried my hand at web development. I had to tap out because it wasn't for me. After doing that, by nature, I'm a technical person anyway. I've been more on the troubleshooting or support side of that. I was also an engineer for a while. And I love technology. I enjoy it. So I figured, why don't I learn app development? Mm-hmm. And programming is another one of those things that I guess at my age, I know that you can learn anything if you put your mind to it. I do understand that. But some things you have to recognize, this possibly would have been that thing that I should have learned maybe some years ago.
No, I
Because
understand completely.
yeah, and I don't want to feel like I'm a failure at it, or um I'm incapable of learning this technique or this skill, because I think programming is amazing. I just think the individuals who can type up and make a beautiful app, or maybe some software, and not that it looks beautiful. I mean, it's functional, whatever
hmm
its executed purpose is. I think that is amazing. But to get to my point, I did go through Twitch just to kind of look and see, because I would love to learn some coding. I've tried my hand at Java. I'm an Apple fangirl, so I wanted to learn Swift and C plus. There was just a whole bunch of different routes that I had taken, but a lot of times when you go to these programming schools, a lot of them are more boot campish.
Exactly.
They're not your true basic. And I've enrolled in several boot camps myself, but unfortunately, coding is one of those things I think is kind of like learning a language, which it is a language.
It is 100%.
It's just one of those things where you kind of need, well, I'm the person, I can only speak for me. I need some hand holding. I need a basic understanding of why, when I do this, why does this happen? I know the big thing with coding is hello world, but
hmm
I really don't understand. I understand what you're saying. That's your first program. You wrote it. Yay, I wrote my first program. But how does this work? Like, why did this happen? So I looked on Twitch just to see if there were some tutorials or some individuals who offer that type of environment, or those types of lessons, if you will. What I did notice, there's a lot out there.
hmm There
The
is.
other thing I noticed is that there aren't a lot of Black people doing it.
Exactly.
As a matter of fact, I'm going to be honest, I don't think I saw any.
And see, that's one thing I noticed that we have to change, because I know plenty of Black individuals that are in the tech space just from being on Twitch. You've seen me, well, actually, and definitely big hello and congratulations and everything to Chelsea, because you had Chelsea on here in a previous episode. She's a phenomenal computer scientist. She definitely fits the realm of, being in the tech industry. Data Dave, who I had the pleasure of interviewing as well too, and so many others who know how to code and program. But we all kind of say the same thing: is everybody just gets nervous about hitting that go live button, or they worry about how they're going to structure it. For me, I would actually one day, and I'm glad that you brought this up. For me, I would love to just bring everybody on board, including you, Jamila, and we just have a one big panel, or just break down how can we attract more Black viewers on Twitch and across these platforms to really look into programming, STEM, whatever the case may be, making more interactive engagement. I think we have enough brains in the room where we can sit down and figure out a way to put down a curriculum that's easy enough and, I guess, entertaining enough for people to understand. Because the number one thing with Twitch is, if you're not going to be educational, then you have to be entertaining. And if you're not entertaining, then you have to be something educational, provide value, right? So we have to figure out where is that fine medium between the two to make it happen. Between myself, Chelsea, Dave, yourself, and many others, I think we can do it. It's just one of those things that, because it's so live and so on the spot, people are afraid that if you do a live stream while you're teaching a curriculum, that if you miss a live stream, that you're going to be behind. And sure, we have VODs and we have things that can be recorded, but people always like to be live for things like this, because you want that immediate, being able to ask questions. And like you said, how does it work? Why does it work? Even though, like, I get why I'm writing this, just why am I writing this? Right. So
Exactly.
we have to find that fine medium. And I think the coding academy I went to was lucky enough. I had that when we were doing our lessons and when we were learning on the spot, because everything was done remotely over Zoom. We basically always questioned why. Why is this a thing? How is this a thing? You can sit here and you can feed me pages of documentation all day, but until you tell me at its fundamental basis why this is the way that it is, I will still sometimes be perplexed. And to be honest, there are things about coding and programming that still perplex me to this day. And I think that'll never change, especially with how many languages there are out there to learn and the different avenues by which you can apply them to create something wonderful and unique. And most importantly, functional, because it definitely has to be functional. So
Right, definitely.
I think for me, if I was to sit down and do a curriculum or do some type of live learning on Twitch for programming, I would start at the very basis. We're going to go back to HTML. We're going to do CSS. We're going to then teach people how to use a CSS library like Sass or any of these other ones. And then you move on to the real meat and potatoes, which is your JavaScripts, your Pythons, things of that nature. Because I feel like without the core of HTML and CSS, a lot of people jump into trying to learn JavaScript and Python, but they really don't understand what is box theory, what is, DOM, things of this nature that really puts all of it together to make a page and website or application what you see when you look at your phone or what you see when you look at a desktop. So I think it's so important that we have to acknowledge the very basics of HTML, CSS, JavaScript, Python. Then you get to build like the bigger projects that really take people into like the tech world and make them feel like, okay, I can now do this. If I can build this, I can build anything. Sure, it may take me a little bit longer, but with the knowledge that I've obtained, I know I can do it. So that's how I feel about it. And it's such a huge project undertaking. That's what makes me the most nervous about it. But I think it can be done.
Well, and I think that what you just said, just me being a novice, I don't even call myself, I think I'm just a beginner. It's applying, it's the application of it. So for instance, and I know I'm getting very technical here and I'm going to move along, but I just want to bring out where my confusion lies. For instance, you said HTML, CSS, and then you're getting into the meat and potatoes of the matter. For instance, front end and back end development.
Yes.
What types of programming languages work with that? And what is front end and back end? For instance, the interface of your smartphone. It's what you see on the front. It's what you see. Then there's the inner working behind it. What's the application? Those are the things I think would be beneficial to someone like myself, because you always get this question, what is the best language to learn? And so people, you know what I'm saying? That is the main thing that people they're focusing on. Well, which language is going to get me hired?
Exactly. And the truth is, and I don't mean to interrupt, the truth is just to answer that one, any language can get you hired. Now, will you be expected to learn more languages on the job if you get yourself in the door? Yes.
More than likely.
Because you're going to be, you got to stay current with the times. But here's the beautiful thing. Tech is a world in which it's okay to not know everything and learn on the job. They literally pay you to learn on the job. Like you look at so many companies that'll bring on a junior developer or a new developer. You might not have experience in that particular language, but do you know a language? Okay. Exactly. So let's take how you apply to learning that language and now apply it to this. Because as long as I can give you some documentation and give you a project or something to show you how it applies and works in a real world scenario, then you can relate it to what you already know. So I feel many people are like that when they get to talking about what's the best language between JavaScript and Python and Ruby and all this other stuff. I just say, look, if you can learn one, you can learn them all. And the thing is, you don't have to know everything out the gate and you don't have to memorize everything. I can tell you right now, my Google Chrome literally has so many bookmarks of so much documentation, because if you're going through all of that, there's no way you can possibly remember it all. You can't. But it's perfectly acceptable to be in a tech field and on the job where you have to look up something to refresh yourself and be like, okay, now I remember how to do that. Because the best developers, I promise you to anybody listening out there, the very best developers out there still type in Google, how do I format this page?
Man, I'm telling you, yes.
They
And
really
then
do.
if you go into developer mode, which I love Google Chrome, I love Google for how, and I know there's a lot of stuff that's priority, copyright protected and things of that nature. But and that was one of the things that I did learn. And when I started podcasting very early on, I interviewed a gentleman who owned, he owned his own development firm. And clearly, with development, when you own your own firm or company and you're a developer and you got into a point where you can employ and hire people.
Mm-hmm.
He didn't have a large staff, right? But when we were talking about his specific journey in programming, his was more web development as well. He said that the way he learned was when he was a little boy. He had a computer and he went to a web page and he built a web page by copying a live web page.
Mm-hmm.
He might have been 8 or 10. And he said that the owner of the website contacted him and said, "You're stealing, you're copying." And he's like, "Oh my gosh, I'm sorry. I'm just a kid. I didn't know I was copying. I'm just trying to learn." And that is exactly how you learn. You copy, not for the intention all the time to steal. But it's when I type this command, how do you end up with this?
Exactly.
That's how you learn. And he said it was just as innocent as that. That's how I learned. And I just thought that was so, I didn't have a computer growing up, not a personal computer. And I'm sure if I had that, who knows where I'd be now. But that's why I love these conversations and I love hearing everyone's journey because everyone's journey is so different.
It really is. And I'm glad you brought that up because it just puts, again, the importance of why we have to expose our youth in the Black and brown communities, why we have to expose our youth to the realm and the world of technology at such a young age. Listen, we don't want to have a generation that's fully dependent on technology for their everyday life. We have enough of that. We have enough devices that take up our time and our attention between tablets, smartphones, computers, video game consoles. Like sometimes you just need a break from technology. But with that being said, we have to also realize that technology is not going anywhere. It's just going to keep growing and keep trying to make life more convenient for the end user. See what I did there, the end user. But
thank you.
But in all seriousness, it's not going anywhere. And we have to be able to recognize that some of our youth actually may have the potential to do great things if we just get them exposure. Just like we want them to be doctors and engineers. That little boy, what he did is exactly what an engineer does. He looks at something. He said, "I know what I want to do. Now, how do I do it?" And he basically reverse engineered it. Instead of building it from scratch, he took an example, dissected it backwards, and then built it back up forwards. And that's how he was able to learn. And so just something as simple as that is what's going to make all the difference for everybody across the board.
I've done an interview with a gentleman, very, very intelligent. I used to work with him way back early in my tech career journey. And he's a big muckety muck now, but he's in automation. And, everyone is afraid of automation and robots and drones and these things taking their jobs, which it is happening in a lot of industries.
True.
But what I always tell people is, you know what? Yeah, they're going to take your job, but those things need to be fixed when they break down.
Exactly.
Programs need to be written for them. So
exactly.
Yes, automation in some cases is a threat, but you might need to consider, and I don't take for granted that everyone isn't technically inclined. And I truly, truly understand that.
Exactly.
But a part of the grind, the hustle is finding ways to reinvent yourself so that you stay relevant.
Mm-hmm.
And yes, we do want to teach our kids. We want to teach the people who are behind us and let them know, you know what? Yes, robots are now doing those things. Yes, drones are now doing those things. But when those things break down, who's repairing them? Who's replacing them? Who's programming them? Who's writing the programs for a particular? Because a lot of this stuff is it's proprietary. They have some companies have specific programs written for their line, for whatever it is that they're doing, their production line. You could be the person that designs a program that specifically meets a particular role or a function.
True.
So we kind of have to, and maybe you're the person that built the drone. It's so, there's so many things that we can actually look at and try to prepare and let people know that, yes, these things are bound to happen, but how do we make ourselves relevant? How do we put ourselves in these particular places so that we keep food on our table?
Exactly. And then I'll add one more point to that, and I'll let them, I guess we can move on to the next segment of the interview without getting too technical over people's heads.
I know, I'm so sorry.
No, you're fine. You're fine. This is actually great. I'm glad we're having this conversation because you hit one major point that I just want to leave people with. With that being said, if automation is the way that our lives are going, with automation comes opportunity. With opportunity comes also not only opportunity, but also gatekeeping. Now, we live in a world where we've already been exposed to people who gatekeep, who have biases, and, who try to, force certain demographics out of, certain opportunities or employment, if you will. So the reason why what you said is so important is because at its core, programming and tech is not bias. It has a very non-bias. But what makes it biased is the people behind it that code it and program it, that manipulate the data or manipulate the user experience for the person or individuals that may want to run or use the program. So in order for us to counter bias within the growing field of automation or anything going forward, we have to even the playing field. And that's why bringing more women, more Black and brown communities, more underprivileged communities into this space is so important, because at its core, and I tell people this all the time, at its core, tech is not bias. What makes it bias is the people behind it who run it unopposed, because there's not enough diversity to say, hey, you shouldn't do that. Because what you're doing right there, what you're writing right there, what you're creating right there is gatekeeping my demographic, my community out of an opportunity. So that's why we have to level the playing field.
And I love that you said that because it is a very real and present danger or threat. And it's one of those things that has been a constant theme with a lot of the content creators on Twitch and on YouTube. Is this thing where Black people don't belong in these spaces, or people of color. Mm-hmm. Now, I can only speak about the Black experience, so I'm not excluding people of other races, ethnic groups, backgrounds. I'm not ignoring those individuals, but my experience has always been from the eyes and the existence of a Black woman. So I can only speak on those terms. Now, the one thing that I do want to ask you is, being a streamer, mm-hmm. have you noticed, or do you find it a challenge being a Black male? Is there any type of biases or trolling that you experience? And I only ask that because you know who all I've interviewed in the past. Mm-hmm. And a lot of there are a lot of young Black women, and their experiences seem to be similar or the same. With certain games, they're not allowed to play. The racial slurs come out. The sexist slurs come out. Mm-hmm. Is it the same for you?
Honestly, there's many parallels, but there's also paths where it diverges. And I'll do my best to clarify this, because I don't want to diminish the Black female experience on Twitch or as a streamer content creator, because every single point that they've made is valid. I've been in those streams, I've been in those chats, and it is sickening what people will say and will do when they say, oh my God, there's a Black female gamer or streamer or content creator. And then it's just ignorance up and down the chat, when you try to give them when they've earned, not even try to give them, because nothing is given, when they've earned their spotlight, when they've earned their, the celebration around their name. So I'll say this from a Black male perspective, I think we have it easier. I'm not saying we have it the easiest, and I'm not saying we don't go without having some racial biases and, ignorant comments made at us. But I think it's a bit easier in terms when people come into a Black male streamers channel. You got to realize that the majority of Twitch is male occupied anyway. There's a lot of female viewers, but it's clearly more written the viewership is more male based, I would say. I could be wrong. And if I'm wrong, I welcome anybody to please correct me, because I want to be knowledgeable. I don't want to be ignorant. But from what I've noticed, the majority of Twitch's viewership is male based. So when they come across a Black male streamer, they oftentimes will give them the chance to rock with them. However, there still come those trolls that want to come in and spam certain hateful emotes, like the try hard emote, want to use racial slurs in a creative way without getting banned, things of that nature. But I myself, and this is the point where I say I can't speak for all Black content creators, male or female, but I myself have not encountered it I've not encountered it as much as other content creators have. Not saying that it doesn't still hurt me, because at the end of the day, we all want to just create content and foster communities based around what we love. So I definitely will say there are parallels, but to the Black female streamer perspective, it is way harder. It is way harder. And that's why I would honestly definitely say to a lot of Black male streamers and just people in general, protect your Black female content creators, protect them, because it's already tough enough to be Black or be a minority on a platform that is overwhelmingly male and, white at the same time. I apologize for saying that, but I just have to be truthful. You have to protect them and do your best to support them, because they've earned the right to be here. They've earned the right to create. They've earned the right to express themselves, much like anybody else has. But it's hard enough to be Black or be a minority on a platform and then be a woman on top of it in an industry that is male dominated. It makes no sense. And so I literally am sickened by the things that I see on this platform and out the viewership sometimes when we give a Black female content creator the spotlight, but it definitely has to be recognized and their points are valid. So yes, long story short, I'm sorry, Jamila, there are definitely many parallels, but I definitely agree that the Black female streamer content creator has it much harder on the platform.
Do you think, now I've also seen where Twitch has posted several messages acknowledging the biases that females in general experience, different communities, whether it be ethnic, sexual orientation, whatever it is. Mm-hmm. I've seen that they've made a few announcements acknowledging and hearing about the reports, if you will, and some of the backlash that a lot of streamers experience during their streams. I know that it's a difficult question because you are not the moderators for Twitch or YouTube or even Twitter. But do you think, I guess what I'm trying to get at is...
Oh, sure. Hit me with it. I'm ready.
Well, I know that you guys have moderators within your streams, or you get to a certain point and you are able to have moderators. Why is it so difficult? Or why isn't there something that's put in place? To me, if you have a space and you're allowing people to come in and express themselves in that, sharing their creations, not to be excluding others, why is it so hard for them to make it clear and apparent that you are not here to harass, to bully, or to point out someone's, differences? why is this so hard to, and I don't want to say police, but to make it clear just to leave people alone?
On that one, this one is interesting, and I'm glad you're bringing this up. This one is interesting. I can't speak on behalf of Twitch or YouTube or any of these other social media platforms. However, I'll relate your question to a conversation we had just recently. So for the viewers out there who don't know, I was invited to Twitch's Black Host and Interview Workshop back in December, along with a host of wonderful other content creators and staff members of Twitch. So during that time, we had the chance to speak to members of Twitch's internal Black team, the Twitch's Black Guild. Yes, there is a representation of Black employees at Twitch, believe it or not. So we spoke to the Black Guild, and we always ask them, hey, when it comes to certain racial slurs and certain words used on the platform, especially, addressing the elephant in the room, the N-word, why is this not a banned word? Why can't we ban people from chat? Why is that even a word that's able to be put in chat? And when it comes to that specifically, I'll basically tell you what they told us. The reason why that word is not a universally banned word is because if you look at it, even though the internet is a wild, wild west, it's still protected under a certain amount of free speech. So in doing that, you have to consider all the ramifications of the word and the iterations of the word. So they literally told us they have tried to get that word on the universal banned word for years. The reason why it's almost impossible is because from a free speech standpoint, if they did that, then it would turn into a possible, lawsuit situation, because we have streamers on the platform that use the word freely to address one another or their communities or their friends, things of that nature. No matter how you do the difference in spelling, it's still essentially along the lines of the same word. So if we take away that word in chat, then we have to look about the slippery slope of making it so nobody can say the word ever in any variation on live streams. And for some people, that's harder than others because it's so ingrained in their vocabulary. Not saying that it's wrong, because I'm not trying to police anybody on their free speech and their vocabulary, because you are who you are in, your environment. But it turns into a slippery slope of, okay, you say this is banned, but they're over here saying it here. So why is it I can't type it, but you can say it? So it turns into this whole free speech debate that then can turn into lawsuits down the road. So they've tried, from my understanding, for many times trying to figure out all the different ways by which they can police just that one word. So imagine not just that one word, but every single derogatory, racist, sexist, homophobic, transphobic, thing that goes on the platform with certain viewers. It is a slippery slope, and it's so hard to police because then you're tapping into the whole free speech domain, especially being that the internet is such a wild, wild west. So I can't speak for them, but I literally know that there is a moderation team on these platforms that do their best to try to police some of this stuff. And sometimes it goes without giving them their credit, because they honestly do look at it. But it comes back to, what can we legally do? Legally, what are we able to do that doesn't infringe upon the rights of all viewers and not just a select few? So that's what it comes back to. I'm not excusing them. I'm not giving them a pass. I'm not saying tighten up and do better. All I'm saying is people have to realize there is legal implications that come with trying to police any and every single thing said on the internet.
Thank you for elaborating on that. Having an insider's view on all the different variations of just racial slurs in general, but that one particular one, definitely. And I think my eyes have been open and I understand. Wow. Okay.
It's a hard one to address. I'll be honest, because when we talked about it, I honestly was taken back for a moment, because you would think it'd be as simple as typing in the word hitting global banned and nobody can ever put it. And then people get clever and, they always try to find variations to say the same word without saying the word.
Languages and
including numbers and numerals and things of that nature.
Yeah.
So it's just one of those things. It's like, hey, there's only so much that can be done. And they want to make sure that this platform is a safe platform. Most of them do. It's not saying that Twitch, YouTube, Twitter, Instagram, all these platforms don't want it to be inclusive and don't want it to be safe. But it is very hard at times to make sure that you can do that because, once again, these platforms are free, which means if you create a free platform without a paywall, without any kind of barrier, then you allow the mob, the mass of people to basically come onto the platform and foster their own communities. So as much as we have good communities, as much as we have favorable communities and communities that are doing positive and wonderful things in the world of streaming and content creation, there will always be that subsection of communities that just will not let peace stand or will not let people be at their very best. They will constantly try to tear you down. And it's just a reflection of real life. And I'm not excusing it. I'm not trying to give them a pass once again or make excuses on their behalf. But we have to realize that this is the reality of human nature at its finest. And the best of us can sometimes are torn down by the worst of us. But it comes back to how do we overcome and overrise through it all to still make sure that we're straight and that we don't lose sight of our goals and what we're trying to achieve.
And it makes it so challenging just to it becomes more than just a game at this point. It's not a pastime. It dilutes all of that. It almost feels it feels impossible in some. It feels really difficult to just enjoy. I mean, it's like you have to. I don't want to say if you can't beat them, join them, but it's almost as if I can't win. All I want to do is enjoy this game and bring some enjoyment to someone else. And it's almost like these people who perpetuate this behavior, they know this and they are, man, I'm sorry. I'm at a loss for words here because.
No, I understand completely. Just continue because I'm right there with you.
It's just frustrating because it's like, sadly, in our real lives, these are the battles that we're trying to leverage and we're trying to suffer through. And when you take to platforms like your YouTubes, your Twitch, or you're playing a game, a lot of that is to get away from reality.
Mm-hmm.
It's a stress relief. But then if in this area or in this place, I'm still battling and tackling the same issues, where do I get my peace?
And that's no, continue.
No, you go ahead. I was finished.
No, I was going to say that's the great question. And I think that's why we have to continue to make our presence known on these platforms. For better or for worse, we are here. Black content creators are here. Other minorities, people of color are on these platforms. But speaking specifically to our Black community, we are here. And I tell the listeners out there and even the viewers of these platforms, we are not going anywhere. Because just as much as we have communities that want to tear us down, we have supporters that want to build us up, that want to see the best of us, that want to see us represented in all aspects of this gaming industry, this content creation industry, right? And that doesn't mean we only get to select a few of us. So as much as people may prefer, I guess, someone like me who they view as cookie cutter, proper speaking, things of that nature, realize it's about all of us. So just, it doesn't matter what my vernacular is, what I look like, my background. If I have something I want to contribute to the conversation, if I have something of value that people enjoy, entertain, and use to get away for their day-to-day life, then it deserves a place on the platform. And it's hard because people act like you have to be a certain way in order to be on to exist and to see success, and it shouldn't have to be that way. But back to my original point, we create the communities that we want to see despite the people that want to tear us down. So for the people who don't have moderators, I definitely encourage them to definitely talk to friends or find communities like-minded and like-sized like them. And hey, I need people who will moderate my channel. I need people who will be there and know exactly this is the type of vision I have for this channel. This is the type of vision I have for my community. And if this aligns with what you see, then will you consider moderating for me? Will you consider being there when I'm live or when I'm recording, whatever the case may be? Because having that in your back pocket is such an important tool when it comes to being on Twitch and all these other platforms. I cannot tell you the amount of times I probably would have blown my gasket had I not had a wonderful moderator team behind me. Yes, I can moderate my channel myself, but when you have people who know who you are, what you put up with and what you don't, it makes all the difference in pushing forward the narrative of this is how I envision my community and my safe space. Yes, we're going to have people that troll it and try to invade it, but we can as easily remove those people so we can get back to business and doing what we love. I literally probably have hundreds of people in Ban World on Twitch, and those people will never see the light of day in my chat ever again. But it's thanks to the wonderful friends, moderators, and even the things I've done myself to ensure that we remain as safe and as positive as we have been so far.
Well, I, want to continue to offer encouragement and appreciation to you for being so well versed in the policies and also being aware that other people's experiences may not be like yours, but being aware and not discrediting, and just being an ally, an advocate for your fellow streamers and content creators. That definitely means a lot, because when you're out here, you just kind of feel like you're alone and this is a battle I'm fighting by myself and nobody's listening. Or, I'm trying to do a good thing and these people are attacking me every which way and I just cannot enjoy. It can be overwhelming. So I do appreciate all of you out there who are not being forced or feeling like you're losing a battle and just giving up on the thing that you enjoy, that you truly enjoy, because it can get overwhelming. You're out here trying to do something, reach a goal, and you've got people who are trying to detour that and trying to discredit you and make you feel like you don't have a space here, you don't belong here. So continued success to you, and thank you for your support, because there's so many of the content creators and variety streamers that I really do enjoy, and I'd really hate for them to get discouraged and throw their hands up and take their towel out of the ring. I'd hate that. So yeah, this has definitely been very eye-opening, and I appreciate your commentary on all of this. I do want to get back to you personally.
Okay.
I know that you play different games and things of that nature. Of the games that you do play, what are your favorite? Which one brings you joy or do you enjoy the most?
Ooh, now we're definitely hitting the high notes. Not to get and again to the viewers out there, sorry that we have to get so serious on these topics, but once again, I tell people these are topics that have to be had because we have to push the narrative forward to be better. But in terms of games, what brings me joy, for the most part, I love calm, relaxing simulation type games. If anybody's ever been to my channel on YouTube or Twitch, twitch.tv/marvelous_play or youtube.com/marvelousplay, all one word. They'll know that I definitely enjoy my games like Stardew. I enjoy my games like my time at Portia. I enjoy upcoming games like Sandrock, Coral Island, things of that nature, because simulation type games just allow you to have that ultimate escape from the world where you can create the character that you want to be. You can choose what daily activities you want to focus on. And then other times you are able to bring in your viewers, your friends, and they can just have a calm, relaxing space with you on this journey of content creation and streaming. So I definitely enjoy my simulation RPGs, whether it be farming, adventure, things of that nature. Besides that, I also enjoy my first person shooters or, FPS games. Yes, there tend to be a bit more on the violent side and graphic side because, you're seeing graphic nature like guns, bullets, and sometimes even blood on the screen. But for me, it becomes a thing where if it feeds that competitive side of me. At the heart, I think everybody has a competitive streak to them. And for me, it's in FPS games. I'm never going to be the best player. I'm never going to be a pro player. And I tell people that when they come to chat, look, don't come in here expecting pro gameplay because that's not what this is about. For me, it's about just feeding that competitive urge that we all sometimes have from, just wanting to feel like, I've reached a pinnacle of performance. I've reached a pinnacle of saying I can do something well and consistently. May not always be the best. I may not always win, but I'm consistently good and getting better. And I think that's just what it's about. So it's definitely got to be my simulation RPGs and my FPS games.
Well, that sounds like that sounds amazing, and I'm sure I've seen you play Apex Legend, and I don't always understand all of the RPG games. They just are so fast paced, and I don't understand what's going on. But it's definitely exciting to see how you all join together as teams, and you're got an ultimate goal of reaching completing a competition and improving your ranking within that game. So, yeah, I think it's really cool. So, do you do all of this on a Mac, PC, or are you a console?
I am definitely a PC gamer to the core these days. I grew up playing console all my life. My very first console, for those who don't know me, it was a Nintendo, was a Sega Genesis. A Sega Genesis that came with one copy of Sonic the Hedgehog 2. I remember it as if it was yesterday. I had came home from school. I had did my homework and I had took a nap. That day, my mom and sister weren't there. So basically I was staying at a neighbor's house and then they had the key to the apartment at the time. And basically, I let myself in. I did my homework, everything. I ate food at the neighbor's house, came home and basically took a nap. I wake up and all I can hear is the sound of like a hedgehog like spinning around like a map. And so I go into the living room and I see my sister sitting down in front of the TV playing Sonic the Hedgehog 2 on a Sega Genesis, which they bought while they were out at the mall. And I was so ecstatic. From that day forward, it was hard to tear me away from video games because it was always like the ultimate relief. And sometimes maybe I needed a bit of less video games in my life because I grew up wanting to do so many things like basketball, like sports and other after school activities. But I was one of those unfortunate few. I'm the product of a single mother household. So I had a mother that was usually working 1, 2, sometimes even 3 jobs to make ends meet. And she's done a wonderful job of that to this day. Like I wouldn't be here if it wasn't for her. But I feel video games kind of fill that void for me, being that I didn't get to do so many after school activities because I didn't have the parental means of getting there and being involved in those things. So I may not be able to do the perfect layup. I may not be able to do a slam dunk, but I bet you I can show you the best sniper positioning on Call of Duty map. I bet you I can show you the best rotation in an Apex ring, or I can show you the most profitable crop to grow in summer in a Stardew Valley farm. And so those things are the things that have made me happy. And growing up, they seem nerdy and they seem geekish to a lot of people. But then you grow up, especially in this day and age, you realize everybody's got a bit of a geek side to them. Everybody's a gamer these days. Everybody's an anime fanatic. So, growing up, were we really the geeks and the nerds? Or were we really the people that had the foresight of like what would become pop culture in and of itself?
Wow. Yeah. So that's actually kind of cool. All right. Well, you know what? I could talk for hours and I know that you have other things to do. It's Saturday, so I'm not going to hold you up, but this has been a very, very It's been a great conversation. I've enjoyed our line of discussion. I want to thank you again so much for taking the time out of your busy schedule to share all of the valuable information and insight. Honestly, if nothing else, it's definitely been insightful. But before we go, I like to give my guests an opportunity to offer any type of encouragement. Definitely let people know where they can find you if you have any projects. But this is your opportunity to send shout outs, your thank yous, whatever you want to do here. It's your time.
Okay. First and foremost, words of encouragement to any content creators out there, especially in the Black community specifically. Keep your head up. Just know that you're not in this journey alone. The biggest thing I would tell you is to find like-minded people in the space to rock with who generally want to rock with you for you. There should be no requirement to, hey, you have to be a subscriber to my channel or you have to retweet on my tweets, nothing of that nature. Find people who would hang out with you on a daily basis, even if Twitch never existed or YouTube never existed. Find authentic friendships and let those friendships be the catalyst for creating better content as you both grow together. So know that you're not in this alone. You just have to find your tribe, just like Couple Noodle once told me. Speaking of Couple Noodle, definitely shout out to Cup. She's been an amazing inspiration. Shout out to Chelsea, Data Dave, both two wonderful streamers who are in the tech field as well. And biggest shout out to my community, all of the Playmaker community who has supported me thus far. And I hope to keep making you proud as we try to grow this year and beyond on all of these platforms. And speaking of platforms, these segues, this is how I got to do them. But speaking of platforms, if you want to find me, the best way to find me is to find me on Twitter at marvelous_play. You can find me on Instagram at marvelous_play, TikTok, marvelous play, all one word, no underscore, nothing. And same with YouTube, marvelous play. Those are where you can find video game highlights, my clips, podcast episodes, and anything else that I may be working on in the future is all on all four or multiple social media platforms. So yeah, I'm very much there. If you want to have a conversation, reach out, but I would love to get to know you. So yeah.
Well, thank you, Marvelous Play, Marv for short. Thank you so much for being a part of the In User Talk podcast journey. I've always enjoyed tuning in, and I appreciate you each time I'm there. You acknowledge me by name, so that honestly makes me feel welcome and a part of the stream, regardless to how long I stay. So thank you for welcoming me and being a part of your stream. Thank you again for taking time out and sharing all of your insight, all of your encouragement, continued success. And I do hope that you will reach whatever goals you have for yourself, your channel, and wherever you exist. You also definitely stay encouraged, both professionally and personally. And you're welcome back anytime, I must say.
Thank you. Thank you. It means a ton. And anytime you would love to have me, just let me know. I'm always down to have a conversation. And this has been a lot of fun. So I'm sorry it took so long, but we finally did it. And next time, I assure you, I'll be much quicker on the upkeep of getting it done. But thank you so much for having me. I would love to do this again.
Anytime. We've come to the close of another episode of the End User Talk Cast. I hope that what you've heard today will leave you feeling empowered. Thank you for listening. And remember, every day's a training day.